Dear friends, welcome to Tbilisi, to the 6th round of the European ACP Women's Rapid Championship. We are a couple of minutes late to the start of the round, and we already see several exciting games, and we will probably start with the board number 2. There on board number 2 we have an interesting opening duel between highest rated player in the tournament, Anna Muzichuk, and Olga Giria. We will see it on our screens now in a minute. It is a very popular line in Caro-Kann, and Anna has prepared probably some novelty because Olga Giria spends her time now, so we will get a closer look at the position. So that's the position on the screen. Rather popular line in Caro-Kann involving pawn sacrifice, and here we can take a look how it is. After queen h4, in this position, the most popular move is queen f4, but Anna played queen h4, and both players were ready till a certain point. Olga played queen a6, bishop a2, queen g6, castles, takes on c2, bishop c4. Now white wants to lock black's queen after d3, so queen has to retreat to f5, rook e1, e6, d4, and here for the first time actually Olga started to think, played knight d7, which is a very logical move, and Anna immediately played queen g3. Now it's obvious that Anna has everything prepared, and black has certain problems developing because, you know, all these bishops on c8 and f8, they may protect black's position pretty nice, but if they stay there till the end of the game, it spells big trouble for black. So what to do? Probably the most logical move here would be either knight b6 or queen g6. But what Olga will prefer? Let's have a close look. We'll ask our operator to show the clocks and to show the board as maximally close as we get. Yes, so we see Anna with white pressing. That is a very important game. Of course, Anna played decent 5 rounds with 4 out of 5, but still trailing by half a point. The leader is Bella Katerashvili from Georgia. She's on 4.5 out of 5. So we leave Olga so far trying to resolve her problems. Obviously, Muzichuk has out-prepared her in the opening, but let's see what will be the continuation. And we will switch to board number 1, where, as mentioned, Bella Katerashvili from Georgia is playing with white against Anastasia Bodnaruk from Russia. So let us get a closer look at this one. Very quiet opening by Bella. She didn't play something principled against King's Indian, just a quiet system for a so-called long game. But Bodnaruk knows her plans, so she managed to play e5, knight d7, f5, and probably her next move could be either f4 or e4. Anastasia Bodnaruk is a rather young player from St. Petersburg, Russia. She is constantly over 24-50 or that level. It would be enough to be the top player from many countries, nearly all countries, but in the Russian team she even barely makes it into the first Russian team. A couple of times she made it to the main team, but usually she doesn't make it, and of course for her it's very important to show that she's a player worth of being included in the national team towards the Olympic. Russians usually have, let's say, more or less fixed 3-4 boards. It includes Alexandra Kostyanyuk, Valentina Gunina, Katerina Lagno, the 3 top stars of Russian chess. And then sometimes Giria, sometimes Goryachkina, sometimes Kashlinskaya, sometimes Bodnaruk. And of course the competition is very stiff there to get into the first Russian team. And Bella Katerashvili, of course, we spoke about that yesterday. She's a constant member of Georgian Olympic team and used to be one of the top 2 boards for a long time, and now maybe she's 3rd rated, but still. She has a very, very strong start with 4.5 out of 5, but once again today we have 6 rounds to go, and of course it would be very, very difficult to maintain the lead. So we see Bella taking her time, deciding on her plan. Usually white should try to build something on the queen side, but it's not so easy, because as long as black didn't play e5 to e4, this bishop on h2 is basically locked off the game, and it's not easy. But let's try the direct b5. That's a logical move, I guess. Now after b5, knight probably has to go away. I'm not sure whether to a5 or to e7. Both are possible, but then some queen d5 is in the air. So let's say if she goes knight e7, she controls the square on d5, and possibly knight will join an eventual attack after f5, f4, and knight e5. So b5, knight e7 indeed was played. b5, knight e7. Once again, very complex position, and I wouldn't say anything about the chances of the sides. I think white and black has its trumps, but let's see what happens next. So on board 3, let's have a close look on the board 3. We haven't even mentioned it. And on board 3, we have a legend of the world chess, and still one of the best players around, Pierre Crumling, playing one of the brightest stars of the younger generation, Alexander Goryachkin of Russia. I think Pierre Crumling was sort of very strong grandmaster by the point Goryachkin was born. So it's a clash of generations indeed. And Pierre is aiming for some principled setup with a long castle and e4 breaks through in the center. But Goryachkin seems to be prepared, and although this e4 looks nice, but black retained 2 bishops and certain counter chances on the queen side. Both of these players are on 4 out of 5 and very much in contention. To remind you, we have a tournament with 78 participants, and I believe the winning score would be maybe 8.5. So it's really, having 4 out of 5 is a very serious bid, but nowhere sufficient to ensure anything yet. So Crumling Goryachkina is here, and we see Goryachkina is pondering. So she has to choose a plan. Basically, she can release the pressure in the center to take d takes e4, or just to maintain it and to see what's going on, whether white will look at it with e5 or any other options. So these are 3 main games we focus on. Of course, we will not miss any other important games as they continue, but let us see the game Muzychuk-Giria once again. It's on the board 2. Things are going fast there, and on the board 2 we will get now, we ask our operators to switch to the board number 2. Yes, we see Olga Giria. Giria has 8 minutes against 15 of Muzychuk, but she sort of managed to get her pieces out, and I wouldn't say equalize, but at least she released some of the pressure. So now Muzychuk can win a pawn back, because as we remember, she sacrificed this pawn a few moves ago. And that would lead to some sort of an endgame which looks nice for white, but maybe black should have just enough to hold it. Not to forget, white has an extra 7 or 8 minutes, so that is important indeed. We do not see exact times, but as we remember, Muzychuk nearly blitzed out all her moves, and we have been 10 or 11 minutes after the start of the round, so that's how it is. So the position is on the screen. In fact, she took this pawn on e6, and now is an important choice for black. The pawn on f5 is also hanging, and if you play g6, then bishop g5 is sort of deadly. So you have to come up with some better defense, and what could that be? Is it rook f8 or king f7, bishop takes f5? Well, still some problems to solve for black. I think it should be somehow holdable, because black is not it doesn't look like black is in big trouble, but there is a concrete problem with this pawn on f5. If it falls, then white can give away this pawn on d4, and she will play with 2 bishops at least. And black seems to be not in time to protect it, because bishop g5 is a very serious threat. If you start with rook f8, for example, once again bishop g5 and rook e1, it's very strong. So we see Olga Giria takes her time, and for a good reason, I would say. I mean, probably the best way to play for black is like king f7, bishop takes f5, g6, bishop goes away, or maybe instead of g6, immediate rook d8, bishop goes away to h3 or something, and then rook d8 and bishop f6. Eventually, black should collect this pawn on d4 and then probably equalize. But once again, that's a very difficult decision. She has to know how to get this pawn back, otherwise she will be simply pawned down, and white will have 2 bishops. So I think that's an important choice for Giria, and we see Olga is taking her time for a good reason. And Anna basically seems to be still in her book, or at least she didn't spend any time to reach this position. Yeah, very difficult decision for black. Now let's see what Olga will prefer. Talking about the tournament once again, it's an 11-round event with the first prize of €4,000. The favorites, you know all the names, and the winner, will it be a single winner or will it be shared? It's not clear, but anyways, the winner is determined by tie-break criteria. There is no tie-break match because it will be too tough on the girls after 11 rounds, and today there are 6 rounds this day. The tournament itself is a joint project of ECU and ACP. We have started it already several years back. The first event was in Kutaisi, and it was won by Alexander Kostyniak. Then last year we had it in Monaco. It was won by Anna Muzicek. Actually, both of these times it was won just by score and not by a tiebreak. But this time around, I feel the competition is so close that it could happen that 2 or more players will share first place. The tiebreak criteria are as follows. It's direct encounter, and then median Burgolds and Burgolds. And then the number of games played with black, and then so on, but it's already, will not need it, I guess. Anyways, Giria is down to last 5 minutes, and she plays king f7, probably the only way to continue. King f7, and possibly Muzicek will take on f5. I see no reason not to do it. And then Giria will try to get somehow this d4 pawn remaining in a sensible position, which would be a bit better for white, but nothing special. So we will switch to board 1 now, because this excitement of this game has a bit faded away. And on board 1 we will get the position from Khotenashvili, and we get it on the screen. Khotenashvili, the things here actually starts to explode. Bodnaruk chose to play the setup with e4 and not f4. It is more ambitious attempt, but at the same time it allows white's bishop from h2 to revive and sort of flourish over this diagonal. So e4 and g4, and now Khotenashvili has to parry all these threats on the king side, and then she'll be surely better because c4, c5. But the question, how does she stop this black attack? Because if she plays h4, which would be a natural choice, then knight g6 might be very unpleasant. She doesn't want to play g3, although that will stop forever black's play here, but she will basically lock and thumb the bishop on h2. So the other choices include h takes g4, which seems to be a natural solution. But here we are probably talking about some sort of pawn sacrifice, which was intended by Bodnaruk. I see no reason for her to miss this hg capture. It's logical. And then after knight e4, white does have a pawn up, but there are a lot of threats coming. Knight g6 and rook f5, queen h4, bishop f5. Although I believe white should be able to stop all this aggression, it is not a position to play in a rapid chess. It's much easier to play with black here. So that's why probably Katanashvili takes her time before deciding if she goes for that or not. So after g4, she still has to take a decision whether she takes. She can also just ignore this g takes h3 and then pretend that it's nothing has happened. But after gh, let's say if I try to play something like c4, g takes h3, and then if you take back, I can always explode it with f4, and my bishop from c8 will join. And not an easy choice for Katanashvili. I would consider that taking on g4 is the best option. Taking on g4, and after fg, probably here she might have other solutions rather than taking on e4, allowing black to play some moves with tempo. Maybe c4 and then c5. Anyways, we see Katanashvili is very focused on this one, and yeah, that's a very important game for her. Obviously, she's in the sole lead, and if she managed to win it, okay, she made an actually quite a move. You know, I'm not sure it is good, but at least it is quite a decision. f4 she played. She locks it all, or at least she tries to. She kills her own bishop for the sake of stability on the king side. So let's say if black does not take now on f3, then the situation has stabilized more or less on the king side for her. She will not get mated. The problem is her invasion like c4, c5 would be much less dangerous without this bishop on h2, but still, after f4, black has other options, and most obvious is taking on f3, let's say, gf. And here black has several possibilities, one of which, let's say, queen goes to e8 and to h5, for example. That might be sort of unpleasant. And of course, g takes h3 is also always possible, because this pawn may be not that important per se, but it will create additional threats. King h1, and white has some, let's say, counterplay after rook g1 on the king side itself. So it will be now an important choice for Bodnaruk, and she takes her time. She's like 9 minutes, again 6 or something like that. So Bodnaruk is thinking here on board 1. Meanwhile, let us have a look on board 3 once again. We haven't seen it for a while. Pierre Kramling on board 3, playing Alexander Gorechkina. And things have more or less simplified here. After this explosion in the center e4, Pierre managed to break through, but Gorechkina firmly protected everything, and this bishop on e6, although it is pinned, but it's protected, and I see no problems for black whatsoever. Actually, on the contrary, black can be a bit better because the pawn on d4 is vulnerable. Let's say after rook d8 and queen f6, it is white who has to play precisely to preserve a balance. And okay, obviously, white is not doing too bad, so it should be around equality, but slightly better for black, I would think. Once again, queen f6, yes, she played queen f6. Now and probably Pierre has to take on e6, and that I would be very surprised to any result other than a draw in this position. So this, we'll leave it so far till we get any, probably we will not get, but it can get exciting maybe in a time travel, but so far it doesn't look so. And we get back to board number 2, where Muzychuk is pressing against Olga Giria. On board number 2, now we'll get a full screen. Maybe we can ask the operator to get us a full screen of this board, the maximal, because we don't see clocks there, and it's important to see clocks from that angle. From behind we probably will not see it, but who knows. So eventually, after taking on f5, as far as I see, white simply preserved this extra pawn. So far it went g6, bishop h3, bishop f6, as they traded rooks, and white still has a pawn up, but black does have a sufficient counterplay for a draw. Let's say white still can pretend she is better, but it is very difficult to do something because this knight goes to d5. That's actually sort of position we started to understand much better with the computers. Early on, one would stop here claiming that white has an advantage because she has an extra pawn, and even if black will manage somehow to get it, while we'll have two bishops and still. But we learned that computers are very sure about black's abilities to hold such a position. Knight will go to d5, attacking the bishop on e3, and either we will get this pawn on d4 in the favorable circumstances, or we will just trade on e3 and make a draw in opposite colored bishop, which is also not a big problem. Let's say Anna can play king f1, let's say knight d5, rook e1, something like that. And somewhere here try to do, but maybe even instead of knight d5, knight goes to c4 with the same ideas, because there is a nice trap. If I protect rook e1 this way, then bishop takes on d4, and all of a sudden after bishop d4, knight d2 check, and I'm getting mated. So that is sort of idea for black here. Problems, and then after knight c4, white is already clearly not better. I mean, she should think about the way to equalize it with a precise play. So that's why Anna is spending her time. She has been ahead on clock like 10 minutes up, but already now it's clear that she sort of allowed her partner to equalize it, but yeah, her opponent. And well, Gunina is, we were being asking about Gunina, where is Gunina? Gunina is 3 out of 5, and we still don't have her game on the top boards. I believe that Valentina will get somewhere at the top tables, and we will have a look at her games later on. On 3 out of 5 also we see Alexandra Kostyniuk, so these two top favorites are a bit behind, but once again 6 rounds to go. So, but from what I see here, Olga Gira is very serious about her play in this tournament. She played a very good game yesterday against Katerashvili and was on the verge of winning, but she spoiled it already after, like, you know, she didn't score in an empty goal simply. So she was absolutely won and simply blundered twice in a row, first not winning in one move and then not winning in 2 moves. And basically that could have made her a sole tournament leader, and now she has to protect her second position because she's black, she's on forward on 5 and trying to defend it. Anyways, we see Muzichuk played some move, and it was, I guess, something with a rook. What was that? Rook d1, yes, and knight d5. That's solid, and now probably something like bishop c1, bishop d4, g3. That is, that would be a logical choice. Yeah, we have here our open studio near the press center, and Georgian journalists are quite active discussing the games of the round. So if you hear them, pardon us for this. So I expect Muzichuk to play now bishop c1, then bishop can take on d4, and then g3. Of course, I couldn't take on d4 back. Now bishop gets back into play after g2 or to f1. Obviously, it remains very much equalish. But if Muzichuk is indeed a bit ahead on time, then she has better chances. But practical chances, of course, the position is about equal. This bishop on c5 is very strong. Maybe she can play c5, or to go with bishop to b6. Anyways, it's not as exciting as it was at the beginning. And let us switch back to Katerashvili against Bodnaruk. We will get Katerashvili Bodnaruk because after f4, if you remember, there was a very important choice to make for Bodnaruk. And on board 1, we will see what is going on. So finally Bodnaruk did take on f3 and h3. That's quite an unusual position here. Have a look. Knight on g2, you know, it's an f4. Anastasia is a very, very strong attacking player. I remember her beating very strong grandmasters like Almashi, for example, with an attacking play. So she's sort of player who wouldn't shy away from the opportunity to attack and maybe to deliver some blows. This knight on g2, it's like nailed into the white's position, and then another knight aims to go to h5. So the last move was f4, and Kotenashvili, from what I read on her face, she is not entirely happy about the things. She played e4, and now black can go knight. Even knight takes e4 sometimes is an option, but maybe simply knight h5, aiming to g3, let's say, something like that. It can be an amusing position actually. Takes on g2, and if I take, probably I have to take back. Rook takes back, bishop h3, and if you go back, then I have some queen h4. It looks very dangerous for white actually. Then bishop f1, knight g3. It looks very dangerous for, and black simply just brings in more and more pieces into attack, and she still has some resources with the rook. So knight h5 seems to be very, very dangerous for white. Maybe some other options are maybe just simply to take on e1, of course, and then to play knight h5. It's also rather sensible. No, but she played knight h5. It's amusing. She exactly followed the line I proposed. So knight takes g2, hg, rook takes g2, and now I expect her to play bishop h3. She can start with queen h4, but bishop h3 looks a bit more natural, just to bring in this last piece into the play. And then queen h4. Yes, bishop h3 has been played. Can we see clocks on board 1? I ask our operator if we can see the clocks more close. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what our actual times are. Okay, bishop h3 has been played, and Kotenashvili is down to her 2 minutes. 2 minutes for Kotenashvili, but that's not the biggest trouble here. More importantly, she is down on the board after rook g1, queen h4, and the threats are simply way too strong. It seems like Bodnaruk is going to win this one. We see Kotenashvili with 1.5 minutes, and she is also in a trouble. So we'll leave it so far, I guess, and we will switch to the board 2 and 3 to see what's going on. So on board 2, we get back to Muzichuk on board 2, and they already drew this game, and then we switch on board 3. And actually some things have changed in Cromlink against Goryachkina, board 3, because they liquidated it in a very unusual, I would say, endgame, because this pawn on e5, it might be a very, very dangerous weapon, but at the same time, if black managed to go in with rook f2, it would be very good for him. Anyways, Pierre Cromlink decided to play it solidly and played rook to d2 to protect everything. She could have chosen maybe rook to d3 or other squares, but she decided to play it safe. And then king goes to c7, and king goes to d3. King d7, king e4, king e6. Well, it all looks pretty drawish. So then we probably leave this one, assuming that it might be a draw here, and we get back to the board number 1. We get back to the board number 1, where Kotenashvili is trying to hold, to find any defense. It's in a very bad position against Bodnaruk. So she played rook g6 instead of rook g1. At least after queen h4, the rook is not taking the square g1 from her king, but still queen h4, queen d1. What's now after queen d1? Now knight g3 somehow is somewhere in the air, so I can simply take on f1, but I'm not in a hurry. I can make also some quiet move. Let us find the cleanest solution. So if black takes on f1 immediately, then queen cannot take on f1, but the bishop can. and it's not immediately evident to me how do you get through. I just recheck, I just go king g1. Nothing has happened. So what's the best way to go? Rook g8. I want to play queen e1. So if that's a critical moment actually. Black looks very much and on the verge of winning, but how to convert it? Because if white will be in time to play, maybe some slow move like king h7 should not be bad. Because if you have to play rook g1, then I should play king h7 indeed. Well, I hope they don't hear me in a playing hall, because it's not like I'm suggesting good moves all the time, so they'd better not listen to me. So rook g1 was of course bad, so she took on g7. She sort of realized that she cannot afford a slow move. Took on g7, probably king will take on g7, and then queen will go to e1. Let us have very close look on the board one. We will know we don't need our board here. We don't need myself on the screen, just to have a very big screen on the board one. Yes, and wider range, just a bit up to see the players. So knight takes g7. Yes, wider. Yes, that would get a good angle from here. Yes. So knight took on g7, and now we approach the final stages of the game. Black is just an exchange up, but after queen e1, black at least cannot claim she will deliver mate. So there is no mate, and there will be some sort of play which is not, queen e1, which is not as simple as it used to be. It's not like all the pieces I bring into the attack and I will deliver mate. No mate anymore. So it would be just a position which is much better for black, but I wouldn't claim it as totally winning. No, because this exchange is an exchange, but there's bishops. If my bishop on h2 will revive one day, it will not be simple. Probably she has to take and to try and open some files, because rooks need open files. As long as the files are locked, there's no much need. Okay, queen g5. She decided she can still attack, but after queen f2, and she jumped back knight h5. Oh, sensible idea actually. She wants to play rook g8 and then knight g3 again. So, and if Bella plays knight d2, then knight g3 check. So, yeah, it's a very good decision by Bodnaruk actually. Queen g5, queen f2, knight h5. So luckily she wasn't listening to me. What did I? Bishop c4. Bishop c4 taking away the square. No, she still played knight d2, allowing knight g3, but probably that was sort of a decision on the last seconds, because Bella was down to her last 10 seconds or so. We don't see clocks from here, but I remember she was playing on seconds. Knight g3 check. So bishop has to take on g3, f will take on g3, queen e1, and that looks like absolutely lost for Bella Kotenashvili. It's up. Maybe the cleanest is queen e3 now, dominating it, and then queen f2, or maybe something like queen h4 followed by bishop to g2, something like that. That looks the most convincing way, right? I think after bishop h3, king g1, bishop g2, the game is over, but we still see Bodnaruk taking her time. 40 seconds for Bella and over 3 minutes for Anastasia. Queen h4, king g1, and after bishop g2, white resigns if she finds it. Bishop